In the pre-dawn hours of 1979, standing on the railing of the St. Paul's High Bridge, 200 feet above the Mississippi River below, a 15-year-old named Eddie Sadell Jr. told the police, moments before he jumped to his death, that he was upset that ABC had canceled his favorite television show, Battlestar Galactica. Eddie was born in 1964 in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he seemed like the average middle-class young teen when he sadly took his life. He was, like many teenage boys in 1979, a big fan of the television series Battlestar Galactica. His room was full of posters, magazine clippings, plastic models, action figures, toys, anything related to the show.
Colonial Viper pilot ready for takeoff. Cylon's approaching. Check stabilizers. Cylon radar missile base open. Get it. All right. All right, now get him. Shoot.
He bought anything he could find related to Battlestar Galactica. He would even record the show from his TV onto a tape recorder. Something many kids did back then, before VCRs was a common machine in your living room. Eddie was really wrapped up in the show. He would watch it in his bedroom each week on a television he bought himself, thanks to a job as a stock boy at a local supermarket. In 1976, Eddie's father found out his son was sniffing gas with his friends to get a quick high. Concerned about this, his father had Eddie meet with a psychiatrist. And that's when they learned Eddie was bored with life, that he felt there was nothing for him to excel in. There was no real challenges on earth for Eddie. His school grades seemed to be around B and sometimes even A's, even if he was bored with school. On the outside of things, he was the typical young American male teenager. But inside, Eddie was depressed with life. In the spring of 1979, Eddie, like the rest of the world, found out that ABC had canceled his beloved television show, Battlestar Galactica. One of the biggest loves in his life. The one thing he could use to escape to. Upset, Eddie sent letters to ABC, asking them to bring back the show. However, on August 5th, 1979, the final episode aired. 16 days later, Eddie was in good spirits when he arrived home after working his job. The family said Eddie went to his bedroom to watch TV, and the family didn't see him again. As the hours passed, Eddie's sister, 19-year-old Crystal, passed by his closed bedroom door to see a note pinned to it. The note was a last will and testament, with a note to his parents telling them where they can find his body under a high bridge. A bridge that the residents of St. Paul, Minnesota often called Suicide Bridge due to a high number of suicides from jumping off the bridge. His parents rushed to the bridge in hopes of saving their son's life, but sadly arrived about 10 minutes after he had jumped to his death, missing the river below. Eddie's stepmother, Dawn Sadell, said she hoped Battlestar Galactica would never, ever be on television again, as seeing it would crush the family. She said she even thought of suing ABC, but Eddie's father said it was best to just leave things as they are and not make a big hassle out of it, adding that she knew it was not the fault of ABC. Eddie's father said his son was a brilliant boy who just couldn't find enough in life to keep him interested. Eddie's father did have regrets and wished that he got Eddie more help, but he adds that it was too late to look back and say, I should have done this and I should have done that. Sadly, Eddie was gone, a short life of just 15 years. The TV show being canceled was credited as the reason for Eddie to end his life. But there was more going on in his mind and life than just a failed television show. Losing the one love in your life might have been what pushed him over the edge, but there was many factors that contributed to Eddie taking his life other than the end of a television show. Ironically, the television show would return the following year in 1990, retooled as Galactica 1980, after ABC received millions of letters from fans asking for the show to return. One of those millions of letters was a letter by Eddie Sadell. One of the new characters on the retooled show was named Colonel Jack Sadell. The two last names are spelled completely different, but pronounced the same. If this was done in honor of Eddie, it's unknown. Eddie might have left us 40 years ago, but sadly, suicide hasn't.
Too many of our sons and daughters did not survive to share the fulfillment of our dream. We can only take comfort and find strength in that they did not die in vain.
But what I want to talk about today is probably the saddest, most shocking episode of Magnum PI that I saw as a kid. Well, maybe not shocking. There's one other episode that's around season 1 or season 2 that's very shocking. The end of it. And I think if you're a Magnum fan, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to say that because I want to talk about it some other time. This one aired in 1985. Now, I'll be honest with you, my Magnum watching was kind of going down the hill about this time. I was really moving on from really watching appointment TV, as they call it, and the Magnum was already been on how many seasons? 7 seasons by this time. So my interest in Magnum PI was draining, to say the least. But this is episode 21, the final episode of that season. Not the last of the series, just the last of that season, and it's called Limbo. And I don't know if you remember that episode or not, but let me tell you what happened in that episode. Magnum PI died. That's right. From what I understand, now I'm not a huge Magnum fan. I don't know the whole backstory of everything, but so maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Magnum was already tanking in the ratings thanks to the Cosby Show when it was on Thursday night. In fact, CBS had moved Magnum, I think the season before that, or maybe 2 seasons before that, to Wednesday night. I mean, it was still seeing a decline in viewership. So they decided to. They didn't decide. They figured they wouldn't get picked up for another season, and they were kind of like, "We've done the course of Magnum. Let's go on with it." So the creators and Tom Selleck, who's now more of a producer on the show than he was on the other seasons, decided they're going to end that season by killing off Magnum. AC, Rick, all of them, and he meets Mac, who was back in season 1 or season 2. Magnum gets killed. He's running out of a warehouse and he shows him get shot. Anyway, he's in a coma, but he's having this dream or something where he's hanging out with Rick and Higgy Baby and all them, but they can't see him. But he's there and he's hearing them say, "Oh man, I miss Magnum. Magnum's dead," or "Magnum's in a coma. He's not going to pull through." And then but they can't see Magnum, but Magnum can hear what all they're saying. And at the end, Magnum and Mac have this wrong talk, and Magnum is in the clouds, and he walks off toward the sun, to the sun, like going away. And it shows where he's in a coma. I think the little beep 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 thing just kind of. Now, from what I've read, they knew by the time they went into filming this episode that CBS had picked it up for another season. So they kind of knew Magnum wasn't really dead. They brought him back in season 8. That he was in a coma, and then he came out of his coma and everything, and tracked down the people that shot him. But I tell you, going into that episode, it was we all kind of knew, like, you know, CBS do those commercials. Is this the end of Magnum? Is it all over for Thomas Magnum? And you kind of hear the buzz, you know, hey, they're going to kill off Magnum. I got to watch it. So maybe it was kind of just a stunt to get people to watch that episode. You know, maybe get the viewers back up for the following season. Man, watching that episode, although I kind of knew or heard that he was going to die, just seeing Magnum die, it was the first time I saw a character that I grew up on, or was growing up on, actually die in a show. Alf never died. No one from the A-Team died. They just disappeared on the A-Team, which you had Amy and a couple of the other girls just disappeared, and Decker and I don't know, some of those generals would come and go episodes and change. And you might, I guess Valerie from the Valerie family died, killed her off, but I didn't watch that. But very rarely did you see a main character at least
the main character of the show, like Thomas Magnum. I mean, that's where they get the name of the show, Magnum PI. But I remember watching that episode, and I think he gets shot early. I haven't watched it in years, but I think he gets shot early in the show, and you're thinking, I bet they're just teasing us. At the end, he's going to wake up from his coma, but they actually did. They killed Magnum, and that's the thing. Although I was heartbroken and shocked, I just couldn't believe that, Magnum could die. That's one thing I also hate. Although I hated to see Magnum die, I kind of hate that they brought it back the following season, which I think they only did one more season, and that season I think is where it started getting kind of really goofy and wacky. I mean, they did one where he was dressed up like Indiana Jones, and it never really had a good season final. I think they just kind of did a normal episode at the end. If what I remember, was no big series final like it should have been at 8 when they killed him off. And now that we know there's been no Magnum since then, I don't see why in the 90s they didn't do a Magnum TV show at least. TV movie. Like they brought back Perry Mason, and I think maybe Madlock and some of them other shows that would bring back 2 or 3 times a year. Hulk, I think, would do that. Have a Hulk movie, made for TV movie. Now that I see they hadn't do anything with the show, I'm thinking, why didn't they just end it at season 8? And again, I wish they ended it right then. That would have been great. A great way. Now that, like I said, now that I know they didn't do anything more after the series, it would have been a good way to end the character. For this classic television show rewind, we're going to go back to March 6, 1981 and March 13th, 1981 to look at the 2-part episode, The First. This is when David Banner, as the Hulk, gets to fight the evil Hulk. Let's take a look at the episode. The show starts off showing some 20-year-olds acting like teenagers, driving in a big hurry in a car. After all, we learned that one of the girls told the dad she was just going to see Linda, not hanging out with a bunch of guys. Racing home during a thunderstorm, they hit speeds as high as 60 miles an hour. And then a tree falls in the path, but the smart young driver swifts the car, missing the fallen tree, but hits a planted tree and the car stalls. Don't worry, these 20-year-old teenagers are safe, but they are about 20 miles away from home. So their only hope is to break into the former home of Dr. Jeffrey Clive. However, they are a little worried breaking in this house because local legend has it that someone was killed in the house. It seems like we're being set up for the perfect Halloween episode, but we're not. Although Walt finds the house pretty spooky, his friend, hiding behind 2 girls, tells him to go on inside.
It's okay. Go on. Go on.
While investigating the house with a really big flashlight, Walt finds a stray cat. No, not that band, the Stray Cats, just a regular stray cat.
You okay, Walt? It's just a cat.
He also finds a secret science lab. And he finally finds a light switch. I don't know why it took him this long to try a light switch. There, inside the lab, for some reason, he slowly pushes down on this big metal lever with no care in the world what it does. Getting nervous, Walt asks over and over again if anyone is there.
Somebody here? Somebody here?
He moves closer to a big curtain, and we get a close-up shot of Walt's terrified face screaming out. One of his fake teenage friends rushes over, shocked to see something has went wrong, but we never see what happened. The show then time jumps a year later, and we see David Banner arriving in town on a bus, and he heads right to the public library. There he's researching the disappearance of Dr. Clive and a mysterious creature that brought havoc to the town, and seemed to pose for a photo. While reading the newspaper, he meets a very friendly maintenance man at the library who is all too happy to talk.
Nice to find someone in here who wants to talk. They all want to read. Gets boring, let me tell you.
If this was a Scooby-Doo episode, this would be the guy at the mask at the end.
Business. Weird. The Clive house still give people the creeps. Just last year, a boy was murdered there. Unexplained.
The guy tells Banner about how a boy was killed at Dr. Clive's house a year before, and we know him as Walt. Banner wants to know all he can about the doctor and the strange creature that killed a local farmer about 30 years before.
This thing about a creature, and I got a little curious. And did you know Dr. Clive?
Banner needs someone else to talk to besides this loose-lipped maintenance man who really didn't know the doctor, but he tells him about Elizabeth, who was about to marry the doctor before he passed away. He tells David that he can find her at the local park, and she can't be missed. She's always there reading her poetry. So David heads to the park and walks right up to her. He has no problem finding her at all. As he talks to her, two 20-year-old teenagers overhear them talking about the doctor and decide to bully Banner. They don't like him nosing around about the lab, the creature, and the doctor's experiments. They warn Banner that the locals don't like people snooping around in their town.
You see, Mr. Barr, city guys like you aren't real welcome around here.
Not welcome at all.
Hello, Elizabeth. Is everything all right?
Thankfully, a local sheriff shows up to run off the rambunctious teens. And he also lets David know there's nothing to be found and needs to leave everything alone. David and the woman take things to her place to have tea and talk about Dr. Clive. There he learns that Dr. Clive had a cure for the monster. David believes that monster was a Hulk like him, and he wants to find the cure for himself.
Miss Collins, if what you've told me is correct, you've done me a great favor.
David heads to see Dr. Clive's assistant, Fry, who didn't seem much up for talking, and seems a little annoyed by all of David's questions.
Look, mister, I've got work to do. You can see that, can't you?
What about notes? I mean, Dr. Clive must have left some notes.
That's not my business.
With no help from Fry, Banner heads inside Dr. Clive's house and into his lab. There he also finds that curtain, and behind it he finds computers with knobs and switches. While reading one of the books marked 1949, the local sheriff shows back up. He tells them about a young guy who said he saw the green creature, and then gives Banner a warning that he can't stop him from investigating, but he also can't keep something bad from happening to Banner if he keeps sticking his nose where it don't belong.
I can't order you to leave, because you're not breaking any laws. But if you keep on with this, I can't be responsible for what might happen. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Good.
Banner then heads back outside to harass Mr. Frey again, this time about the missing book from the lab. The two 20-year-old teenagers show up again, asking why Banner gets off on sticking his nose where it doesn't belong.
Where do you get off bothering people, mister? Sticking your nose where it don't belong.
I didn't help him any. He's up to no good.
One of them hits Banner with a piece of wood. They scuffle, and Banner then runs off toward an old barn, but he falls into a well. There he lays at the bottom of the well, in pain and angry as his eyes turn, and the Hulk is unleashed as he escapes from the well and tosses one of the teens like a rag doll, as Fry looks on in horror. Hulk flees into the woods as the teens grab rifles to go hunt for him. Fry finds him and takes him back to the lab. At the lab, Banner is told a shocking revelation. Fry was the creature, not the doctor. He was the other Hulk. He was Dr. Clive's guinea pig. And best of all, there may be a cure in Dr. Clive's notes. The two team up and go over what Dr. Clive was doing. Fry was able to keep all the machines working, but he needs Banner to explain how it works. Fry goes on to tell Banner about how he got into a bar fight once and turned into the Hulk. But he adds that he didn't kill the teen a year before. Whoever killed him, it wasn't Fry. Now, with the missing book found, Banner reads Dr. Clive's research, somehow hearing it as the voice of the doctor in his head.
What appears to be a primitive double with incredible strength. This creature could be particularly dangerous, I fear.
Banner then gets upset at Fry because the notes really didn't help him any.
Del? These notes are incomplete. Where are the formulas for Dr. Clive's cure?
They're not there?
No.
But then Fry gives him a container with white powder inside. Banner takes a look at it through the microscope. We find out that the two old fake teenagers were outside the house knowing David Banner and Fry were inside up to something no good, and they know something has to be done about it, or they'll have to do something themselves.
Now the sheriff will do something.
Well, if he doesn't, we will.
But it seems the sheriff just doesn't care. He's busy at the general store. One of the young men does some overacting as the sheriff tells him to go away and stop bothering people.
And something in that house killed my brother. Now you're just gonna sit back and let it all happen all over again?
There's nothing I can do. I need a suspect, a motive, and evidence. Until I have that...
Well, we are not gonna wait!
Back at the house, Fry gets upset at Banner because Banner won't let him turn into the Hulk to cure his arthritis.
The arthritis. It cures things, remember? My bullet wound healed in a day.
No, we can't risk it.
And after a heated argument, Fry admits that he killed the kid, then attacks Banner. With Banner knocked out and the local teens coming to cause trouble, Fry turns on the machine. The teens set the place on fire as Fry tries to put it out with a lab coat. Unable to stop the fire, he lays on the table. But Banner awakens and tries to turn off the machine, causing Fry to get angry and turning into Bad Hulk. Bad Hulk jumps from the table and growls at Banner for about a minute before throwing a canister at him in slow motion. The sheriff arrives and calls for Gladys to call the fire department.
Hello, Gladys. This is Sheriff Decker. Get me a couple of firefighting units out of the Clive house right away.
Bad Hulk growls some more and escapes into the woods as Banner watches, holding the cure in his hand. Or Fry, who doesn't seem to want to be cured, but is out of control. This ends part 1. Kids and their parents sat on the edge of their seat, waiting a whole week to find out what would happen. Would David Banner finally find the cure and no longer be the Hulk? And what would happen to the Bad Hulk? Would he escape the clutches of David Banner and wreak havoc on the world? We had to wait a week to find out. But you don't have to wait a week, because we're going to break down episode 2. If you're asking, yes, that's Dig the Rock, who's famous for playing the Swamp Thing as Bad Hulk. But now, let's get into part 2 of The Incredible Hulk.
Here are some scenes from the last episode of The Incredible Hulk.
We don't need a recap, because we didn't have to wait a week, so let's get into part 2. Episode 2 opens with the Bad Hulk seeing a deer and getting very angry, so angry he growls at it, but it just looks at him like he's a dork. He can't even scare off a deer, so he decides to throw a huge boulder at it. And that does it. The deer runs away. Bad Hulk growls of joy. Then he sees a bird in a tree and gets angry and knocks the tree down. It's clear by this point, Bad Hulk doesn't like wild animals. And then we get one of the worst transitions ever, as we slowly see Bad Hulk fade back into the old man Fry, and we have to stare at his face just a little too long. David finds Fry, and he's worried that he's going to hurt someone and offers to give him the cure. But Fry doesn't want the cure, and in a roundabout way, lets Banner know he wouldn't like him when he was angry.
But you know, when I get mad, what I can do.
Back at the local general store, the good old boys decide to have a little fun with Fry and tease him by calling him a cripple.
Elizabeth Collins and what was his name? The cripple. You know, the one with the twisted hands. Hey there. You think I'm right?
But Fry doesn't care. He just laughs it off. But the main bully does offer up some advice for Fry. He said that he can teach Fry how to make a woman happy, and his friends laugh it up.
Oh, then I'd be willing to give you a few pointers, you know, on how to make a woman happy. I don't imagine you've had much experience with things like that.
Just as Fry is about to kick some ass, the sheriff walks in. Across town, Banner gets help from Elizabeth, and guess who shows up in town, hot on the trail of David Banner? That's right, Mr. McGee.
In your local papers, the two guys who saw the Hulk are in your jail. Don't tell me there isn't a story here.
The Hulk, huh? Well, is that like Bigfoot or Sasquatch? Mr. McGee, whatever's going on here, it certainly doesn't need any more publicity, especially from the Register.
Fry heads to the park to see Elizabeth to let him know he's not a bully anymore, and more importantly, he's not impotent anymore.
But Elizabeth, that's not all.
I'm different. And things are going to be different around here for me, too.
You know how it's been for me, Elizabeth. I've taken a lot from people in this town. Well, no more people. They're going to start respecting me.
But he gets upset when she doesn't want to hook up with him, I guess cause he's an arthritic, simpleton hick. Banner then goes to have tea with Elizabeth, who tells her that he also has a medical problem just like Fry.
Well, Dr. Clive's work, I thought it could be very important for me from my research. Dell offered to help. I'm afraid I didn't see past my own concerns. I have a medical problem.
And she thinks it means he can't get it up either. As they talk more, Mr. McGee shows up, Banner runs and hides, and Mr. McGee pushes his way into the house and then asks, can he come inside?
Miss Collins?
Yes?
I'm Jack McGee. I'm a reporter for the National Register. You mind if I come in?
For some reason, Elizabeth has a picture on the wall with a boy with a raging erection. Across town, Fry returns to the general store to be bullied once again by the same hillbillies who this time will not sell him anything to drink. They all stand around looking at each other until Fry decides to do a little bullying himself.
Sure.
This causes the main bully to stand up and punch Fry's stunt double in the face as the fat boy giggles away. Then Fry stands back up from being punched, acting more like some old drunk than a man that just got sucker punched in the face. The bully punches Fry again, causing him to finally get angry. And we have the longest and worst transition into the Hulk ever, and I thought the last one was bad. See how long that was? And I edited it down. So Bad Hulk busts his way out of the supply closet and waves his arms around as he growls at the hillbillies. Of course, this whole rage scene is in slow motion.
I don't know why, but for some reason all the action scenes are in slow motion. After throwing around some of the stuff at the store, he then picks up the big main bully and throws him out the window, killing him. Yes, he kills him. And then he pulls down a green sheet and growls. You think maybe it's over there, but no, it's not. The sheriff comes to the general store to investigate, but Mr. McGee's in the way, and he tells him he only has 5 seconds to get out of his way.
Mr. McGee, if you're not gone in 5 seconds, I'm going to arrest you for interfering with this investigation. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Back at Dr. Clive's house, Banner makes 2 doses of the cure. He plans to give one to Fry, dosing him first so he doesn't kill anyone else.
The cure incapacitates the patient for 48 hours. I cannot risk Dell staying the way he is for another 2 days, especially after what happened at the store.
Back at Fry's house, he is confronted by Mr. McGee, and Fry, without even getting angry, is able to beat up Mr. McGee. Mr. McGee must have been a wuss. So he beats him up and leaves Mr. McGee laying on the floor of his one-room sad apartment. Fry runs to Elizabeth's house, believing she's ready to run away with him, but no one would run away with this old geezer. It's just a setup by Banner. As Fry is telling Elizabeth how powerful he is now, Banner sneaks up and jabs him with a sedative.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Banner then carries Fry to the lab and lays him on the table as he pushes down once again that big plastic switch. Fry then wakes up and becomes angry, slowly again turns into the bag whole. He rips off the restrainers holding him to the table, and then, in slow motion of course, throws Banner across the room and growls at Elizabeth. The Bad Hulk smashes the last of the cure, causing Banner to become angry and Hulk out. Then the moment we've been waiting for, the 2 Hulks fight. Well, first they stand around and look at each other in slow motion for a while. The Bad Hulk of course growls some more, then throws a chair at Hulk. The 2 fight, in slow motion, as they destroy the lab. The 2 stand around and growl at each other in slow motion for a while and kind of just knock each other around. It's really no good fighting. And then they both decide to pick up a table and break it apart. At this time, the sheriff and Mr. McGee rush in. and the sheriff fires 3 shots. Those 3 shots kill Bad Hulk. But before they can shoot the good Hulk, Elizabeth protects him so Hulk can flee. We cut a few hours later, with Elizabeth giving her report to the sheriff as Mr. McGee tries to convince her that Banner is just as bad as Bad Hulk.
I can't, Miss Collins. No matter what you think, no matter how gentle this man may have seemed to you, the Hulk is a very real danger. And I will not leave him alone.
We end as we always do, with Banner slowly walking down the road, hitchhiking, leaving town, on his way to the next episode adventure. Well, that's a classic look back at the time Hulk had to fight Bad Hulk. A lot of people still talk about the time $6 Million Man had to fight Bigfoot, and to me, this is on par with it. They're both kind of cheesy and corny, but also a fun episode to watch. I just wish they didn't kill off Bad Hulk and had him return every couple of seasons, as he would have been a good villain for the Hulk. In 1989, NBC and creator Donald Bellisario sent Sam Beckett back in time to make what once went wrong. In the science fiction hit Quantum Leap. During the show's 5 seasons, Sam Beckett, played by Scott Bakula, saw Sam leaping from life to life, from everyday common folks to a space chimp to even Lee Harvey Oswald. But it seems Sam never got his greatest leap of all, leaping into Hawaii private detective Thomas Magnum. In 1980, CBS and television creator Donald Bellisario teamed up to bring Thomas Magnum to Hawaii so he can be the ground security guard for Robin Masters' estate, ran by Jonathan Quayle Higgins, and in the part-time, be a private detective. The show was Magnum PI, and it quickly became one of the most successful television dramas of the 80s. Sometimes the show wouldn't take itself too seriously, and other times very seriously.
Did you see the sunrise this morning? Yes. Why?
So the show was able to ride that rail between having fun and being serious. And it's one of the few shows from the 80s that still holds up very well today. So what does Magnum PI and Quantum Leap have in common, other than having the same creator? Now that show creator, I'll just refer to him now as Donald, because I'm sure I'll pronounce his last name wrong, has always been a fan of television crossovers. In fact, when CBS wanted to reuse some of the sets from Hawaii Five-0 for Magnum, Donald used this as a great opportunity to put Thomas Magnum in the world of Hawaii Five-0. In season 1, Magnum gets on a police radio and pretends he's with the police, and he says, "Bill, this is Matt Garrett of 5-0. Is David Norman armed?" This, of course, is referencing characters from Hawaii Five-0. In fact, one of the stars from Hawaii Five-0, Jack Lord, was even in talks to appear on Magnum PI as the character from Hawaii Five-0, but it never did happen. However, Magnum did do some crossing over. He did a 2-parter episode with Jessica Fletcher, who we all know from Murder, She Wrote. Magnum also did a 2-parter episode with California private detectives Rick and AJ from Simon & Simon.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a red board, too. You know what I mean? Hold it right there.
Thomas.
For the season 4th ending to Quantum Leap, Sam was to leap into Magnum PI. In fact, if you believe some eyewitness reports, this season ender was even filmed. If you're not familiar with Quantum Leap, at the end of each episode, after Sam Beckett has made right what once went wrong, he leaps into someone else, setting up the next episode. It would often end with him looking in the mirror, revealing to the audience and Sam himself who he leaped into. Then he would say his famous catchphrase, "Oh boy." If you were at LeapCon in the 90s, a convention for Quantum Leap fans, you may have saw this ending with Scott Bakula as Sam, dressed up like Magnum. According to people at the convention, say that it shows Sam Beckett with his back to the audience, standing in front of a blue screen, wearing the famous Magnum PI Hawaiian shirt And then Sam looks over his shoulder, giving everyone a look at actor Scott Bakula with the famous Thomas Magnum mustache. Looking at the camera, instead of saying, "Oh boy," he makes the famous eyebrow jump seen in the opening intro to Magnum PI. So was Sam going to leap into Magnum? Or was he actually going to leap into Tom Selleck playing Magnum? There's really no clear answer to that, but as we know, Donald loved to do crossovers, and it's most likely he was going to play Magnum. So what happened? Why didn't we get this crossover? Or is it just an urban myth? Is there any truth to this at all? For that answer, we look at the May 1992 TV Guide issue, where they did a very small article entitled Jumping to Conclusions, where they said NBC was working on this episode before they even got the permission of Tom Selleck. TV Guide even has a quote from Tom Selleck saying, "I'm not going to be a part of it." But would Tom Selleck really have been needed? If Sam Beckett was to leap into Magnum, all we really would need was Tom Selleck in the mirror scenes. You could easily just do it without a mirror scene, although that would kind of go against the feeling of Quantum Leap itself. But you probably could use footage from the television show and work it into the show without using Tom Selleck. It seems from the quote in TV Guide that Tom Selleck turned this down. However, in a 1992 USA Today article, they talked to Tom Selleck's agent, who seemed to not know anything about this, saying that Tom Selleck was never reached out from anyone at ABC or Quantum Leap. There's also a problem if they were to do this, as Quantum Leap aired on NBC and was owned by Universal, and Magnum was a CBS show. So I'm sure if they went ahead with this show, there would have been some legal nightmare to work out. And why even do a crossover? Or why not do one? One thought of bringing Magnum back in this way would make Magnum fans excited for a feature Magnum PI movie starring Tom Selleck, something that Donald has been pushing for years. In an interview with a Quantum Leap podcast, Donald Belisario said that the plan was nothing more than something in his head, and didn't get much beyond that. And his plan was to have him leap into Magnum, not Tom Selleck.
I wanted to leap him into Magnum. I thought that would have been a terrific episode.
I heard rumors that that was actually shot, a teaser that was actually shot. Was that true?
No, it's not true.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Never. I wanted to make that, and the executive said to me, "You can't do that because Magnum's not a real person." I said, "I think Sam's a real person." And he couldn't get past that you're leaping into a TV show. People will not believe it. So I never got around to making it. Probably would have been difficult because I'd have had to gotten Tom's permission to use him, and I don't know if he'd have gone along with that or not.
As you heard there, Donald says nothing was ever filmed. But I must point out that Donald has also in the past said there was no original different ending for Quantum Leap. And since then, images from the original ending from Quantum Leap has leaked out online. So what was the plan? The plan was for season 4 to end with Sam leaping into Magnum right at the end. And then the first episode of season 5 will be the Magnum crossover episode. It seems most likely that this ending was filmed, at least just filmed with a blue screen, that it was more than just plans in the creator's head. My guess is that this is something they planned, and then it was just too much of a headache working everything out. So they skipped it. It seems most likely Sam was going to leap into Thomas Magnum, not Tom Selleck, and work with the co-stars for Magnum PI to help solve a mystery, to put right what once went wrong for Magnum. Then he would leap on to the next episode. It would be interesting to me if he actually leaped back to one of the episodes in Magnum, but I really doubt they would have done that. So how did season 4 end? Well, instead of leaping into Magnum, Sam leaked into someone else we all know, Lee Harvey Oswald, who Donald actually knew.
I was in the Marine Corps with Lee Harvey Oswald and had met him and had some words with him.
In the first episode of season 5, we see Sam leaping around the many years of Lee Harvey Oswald trying to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy. At the end of season 5, the show was canceled, so any plans ever to cross over the two shows died with the end of season 5.
I've never been with anything less than a man, so fine.
The show stars $6 Million Man himself, Lee Majors, and co-star Douglas Barr as his lovable sidekick Howie, who Lee Majors' character Colt Silvers often referred to as Kid. Also starring on the show was the beautiful stunt woman Heather Thomas. Joined the show after the first season was Marky Post as the Bells bondswoman who would give Colt Silvers some of his cases. Marky Post would leave in the final season so she could star in the NBC hit Night Court. So what was this show about? Well, Lee Majors played, as I said, Colt Silvers, a Hollywood stuntman that made Eastwood look so fine during the day, and at night he would do his second job as a bounty hunter. Can you think of any cooler thing than that? Part-time Hollywood stuntman and part-time bounty hunter. He would usually use his knowledge of movies' practical effects to find murderers and crooks. During the first season of The Fall Guy, Colt Silvers would explain the life of a Hollywood stuntman. This voiceover of Colt Silvers telling about his life was intercut with stock footage from classic Hollywood movies, where audience would assume the stunts being shown in these Hollywood movies was Colt Silvers. But however, this voiceover at the beginning of the show was dropped for the second season. Now let's talk about one of the greatest TV theme songs of all. Is The Ballad of the Unknown Stuntman, and was written by the Diamonds' lead singer, Dave Somerville. The song was actually written for another TV show about a stuntman that never got picked up. However, about a year later, Somerville was on vacation in Hawaii with his friend, television producer, Glenn Larson. After a night of hanging out in Hawaii, Larson wanted to hear his friend sing a song. He went to his guitar case, pulled out his guitar, and what song did he have in his case? Only one, and that was The Ballad of the Unknown Stuntman. Hearing the song, TV producer Glenn Lawrence loved it and started brainstorming ideas for a television show about an unknown stuntman. The two pitched this show to ABC, and just 5 minutes into the pitch, ABC gave it the green light. As for the song itself during the opening credits, it was performed by Lee Majors himself, who would even release a longer version of this in 1984. What I love about this show is it never took itself too seriously. The show would often make inside jokes about other movies and actors, and even Lee Majors would poke fun at itself or his previous famous role as the $6 Million Man. The theme song's opening line has a little inside joke about Lee Majors. It starts off with "I've been seen with Farrah." He means Farrah Fawcett. Well, at the time, Lee Majors is his wife, and they were going through a nasty divorce at the time. But Farrah Fawcett actually showed up in the pilot episode to kind of show the world that, yes, they were going through a divorce, but it wasn't as nasty as the tabloids made it seem. Throughout the season, famous guest stars would appear on the show, sometimes as herself and sometimes as characters, such as the Bionic Woman herself, Lindsay Wagner, the Incredible Hulk star Lou Ferrigno, and even a young, very young Joaquin Phoenix.
What's the matter, kid?
Some bikers came along and broke our kite.
Also a very young Jack Black.
Somebody's coming. Let's get out of here.
Something interesting, the writers of the show seemed to not like classical music. Whenever someone on the show liked classical music, they turned out to be the bad guy. The show moved to Thursday nights in 1984 and had to compete against Magnum PI and The Cosby Show. These were two of the biggest shows in 1984, so as you can guess, The Fall Guy was no match. So what did ABC do? They moved it again, this time to Saturday night. Saturday was a bad time for television, as most people were out having fun on a Saturday night, not staying home to watch network television. So the show failed to make it into the top 60 for the week. So ABC had a great plan. Let's take it off for Saturday and move it to Friday, the second most unwatched day of the week. That was 1986 and its final season. ABC canceled The Fall Guy along with some of their other primetime shows such as Ripley's Believe It or Not, one that I personally love watching myself, He's the Mayor, and one of the most loved comedies of the 80s, Benson. However, ABC did have plans to win back viewers. Their plan? They hired Lucille Ball to star in Life with Lucy. It lasted 8 episodes. Now, I recently watched a few episodes because I haven't really sat down and watched this in years. And it's a little more silly than I remember it being. But like I said, the show never really took itself seriously, and the silly's kind of fun. Kind of in that vein of a Cannonball Run film, where you can tell the actors are just there to have fun, and they also is not taking it too seriously. And there's some bad special effects, such as Colt Seaver's skydiving, where you can tell it's just Lee Majors in front of a green screen, laying down with his arms out and a fan blowing in his face.
All I have to do is glide right to the airplane to save Robert Wagner. I can make it. What, you mean me? I need to be saved? Oh, I'm coming in too fast. Howie, slow down. I'm coming in too fast.
So what happened to the cast of The Fall Guy? Well, we all know what happened to Lee Majors. He went on to sell hearing aids on late night television.
These were enhanced by bionic technology. Well, now I'm here to introduce the Lee Majors Bionic Rechargeable Hearing Aid.
So what happened to Howie, Douglas Barr? Well, he showed up on a lot of episodes of Designing Women, after that just appearing on shows here and there like Murder, She Wrote and CBS After School Specials. In 1998, he started Hollywood and Vine, a high-end wine producer in Napa Valley. As for Heather Thomas, well, like most people in the 80s, she got addicted to cocaine during the run of The Fall Guy, but did enter rehab during the show's run. In 1986, shortly after the cancellation of The Fall Guy, Heather Thomas was struck by a vehicle while crossing a street in California. She seriously injured both her legs, but after about a year she was fully recovered. And in 1998, she gave up acting, and in 2008 released her first novel, Trophies.
You've got 4 partners in the hospital. Come on, Alex, you're a good cop.
By the way, who's my new partner?
What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about the 1976 ABC classic, Holmes and Yo-Yo. I'm not even sure out there who remembers this show, but growing up as a kid, I actually liked this show. It's been ranked on TV Guide at number 33 as one of the worst television shows ever. But me personally as a kid in 1976 and 1977, I enjoyed this. But then again, I was only about 5 years old. So I decided to go back to episode 1, the pilot episode, and rewatch Holmes and Yo-Yo. The story of Holmes and Yo-Yo revolves around 2 detectives. One, a down-on-his-luck detective named Alex Holmes, played by Richard Sherrill, who has a pre-Ace Ventura-style haircut, and his new partner, Gregory Yo-Yo. Now, Yo-Yo is short for a longer name that I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to try.
We call him Yo-Yo after his creator, Gregory Yoyonovich.
He is played by John Schruck. I kind of see him as the poor man's Elliot Gould. I personally know this guy more from the Star Trek movies where he played a Klingon in at least 2 of the old Star Trek movies. Yo-Yo is a young, naive, but good-natured new detective. And he has a secret that only a few know about. Yo-Yo is an android. Holmes himself doesn't even know in the first episode that his new partner is a robot. The show ran for 13 episodes, 1 full season. And let's take a look at the very first episode that premiered in late 1976. The show opens with a very cheesy 70s intro, showing the 2 stars mugging for the camera. And believe it or not, this opening was the only thing that made me laugh hard. The opening scene shows our heroes racing from scene to scene, jumping from the car. After the first few times, it hits you. These scenes were done over and over again, every time Holmes leaves his car door open. To me, this felt like something from Naked Gun, and it made me laugh. And at the very end, it's revealed they're running to the bathroom.
The show opens with Holmes and his current partner, Mahoney, relaxing in their parked car. I guess just waiting for a call, when they are rear-ended. Oddly, Mahoney's first reaction is to draw his gun, like he is about to open fire. This is not really played for laughs. Once out of the car to investigate, Holmes learns that the driver is a student driver, and that sends the laugh track erupting with laughter.
I see.
I'm learning the proper way to park a car.
This isn't it.
I, for the life of me, can't figure out what the joke is here. Is it because she's a student driver? It's like they put in a laugh track just for the fun of putting in a laugh track. As the driver and Holmes talk, the laugh track continues. It keeps going like we're watching a fine-tuned comedy routine. Yet, on the screen, nothing funny is happening. The two detectives are called to check out a report of a prowler at a local home. Why two plainclothes detectives were called to check out a prowler? I'm not really sure. It seems like they would have some kind of beat cops for that. Once there, Holmes mistakenly opens the garage door. In doing so, we see one of the weirdest garage door opening mishaps ever, as a thief bolts out with his stolen car. With Holmes' partner now injured, Holmes is given a new partner to help find the rare antique car. That partner is Yo-Yo, a new field test experience who is a 427 mobile computer.
He's a completely mobile computer.
He has a photographic memory, a real photographic memory. Press his nose and a Polaroid photo comes out of his shirt pocket.
Room outside. Excellent. Who's that man wearing the typewriter? It's gotta be Holmes.
Yo-Yo is teamed up with Holmes, who doesn't know Yo-Yo is an android. Despite his odd behavior and his tick of often repeating phrases over and over and over and over.
Sir, where you been working, Yo-Yo? 23rd Precinct. Yeah, what division? The Bunko Squad. How long you been with them? The Bunko Squad? Yeah, how long you been with them? The Bunko Squad? 3 years. 4 years with the precinct.
The new partners head back to the scene of the crime, where Holmes tries to interview the car owner, Mr. Powers, who is upset at the timing of this as he's trying to watch 2 football games. His uncaring about his lost car really spoils the twist at the end of this show. When trying to conduct an interview, Mr. Powers can't stop using his remote to switch between the 2 football games. The remote somehow also causes Yo-Yo to turn and look at the TV with each click. This remote also seems to have the power of making the laugh track go off with each click. The joke here might be funny if done once or twice, but the joke goes on and on and on. What starts off as being a little funny just becomes very annoying very fast. The two move outside, the real scene of the crime, the garage. However, to enter it, Holmes must use the garage remote to open the door. Being that we already seen a remote control joke being overused less than 60 seconds before, you know it's gonna happen here also. Holmes presses the button on the remote, sending Yo-Yo spinning around like a broken garage door. Also again, the remote control has an effect on the laugh track as it goes crazy again with laughter. Yo-Yo explains he was just doing his daily exercises. I'll give you this scene. Yo-Yo flipping around. It is a little funny, but I think it's mostly due to the odd effect of the stuntman on wires. The two quickly find a magnet that was used to open the garage from the inside. And this is the thief's calling card. As Yo-Yo explains to Holmes how the thief got away, we are given one of the most longest, awkward pauses in television history.
Kincaid must have driven it right into the truck. Yeah, I know that.
The two detectives just happened to drive right past Kincaid, the car thief.
Where? Over there. Look. Sure looks like it.
They also happen to drive right into the back of a semi-truck's trailer. The two bicker back and forth, using clearly ADR that doesn't even sound like they're in a police car, much less like they're in a trailer.
Alex, you drove into a truck. Just testing our theory. Well, you'd better back the car up. I know that.
However, before they exit the trailer, they are unaware that it has moved forward, causing the two fall to the hard concrete below.
Before Kincaid gets away. Close your door.
The two then search the content of shipping boxes without a warrant, without even getting permission from the company's owner. All it takes for the worker to open the crate is for Yo-Yo to ask him over and over and over and over and over and over again.
I don't know. What's in the box? I don't know. What's in the box? I just work here. What's in the box? Okay, get off my back. What's in the box? Automobile parts. What's in the box? I just told you. What's in the... Open it.
However, the two find more than just stolen car parts. They find the body of Kincaid, who just a few minutes before was just standing on the side of the road talking to a friend.
Isn't that Kincaid? Where? Over there. Look. Sure looks like it.
Now, somehow, he's dead. Not just dead, but he's boxed up with car parts, all within a few minutes. Then the two do what most detectives do after they find the dead body of their wanted thief. They head to the local diner.
Hey, Alex, you want half of my sandwich? Thanks. Why don't you try some of my blue plate? Thanks.
At the diner, Yo-Yo takes a bite of his plate. Yes, a bite of his plate. As they remember about a manual at Mr. Powers' home about how to take a car apart. The two detectives theorize that Mr. Powers, or maybe his wife, stole the car themselves for insurance money. The two head over to Mr. Powers' house. Once there, Yo-Yo uses his robot powers, I guess. I'm not really sure. He seems to find out that Kincaid's fingerprints are on the manual. Yo-Yo has the proof he needs, stating that Powers gave the manual to Kincaid, who used the manual to take the car apart to ship it. Then Powers killed Kincaid and took his manual back.
Kincaid? I don't know any Kincaid. This book proves that you and Carl Kincaid were working together. You gave Kincaid the book so that he could take the car apart. Then after you'd killed him, you took the book back so that you could put the car together. I don't know what you're talking about.
However, earlier when they interviewed Powers, the manual was already at Powers' house.
What are you doing? Well, I was just going to check out this book. Assembly and Maintenance of Your Graham Beanie.
Then we see Kincaid at the loading center without a book in his hand.
Isn't that Kincaid? Where? Over there. Look.
And minutes later, he's killed and stuffed into a shipping box.
There's something I don't like. We also found the driver. Kincaid.
This makes absolutely no sense at all. But in bad guy TV fashion, what does Mr. Powers do? Does he play dumb? Of course not. He pulls out a gun and makes a run for it.
Stay where you are.
The two head off in Powers' new unfinished kit car that Yo-Yo explains is the fastest car ever made. It goes 0 to 150 in 10 seconds. The two head after Powers, and due to the speed of the world's fastest car, they blow right past the wanted car. That for some reason now has a long piece of yellow wood hanging on the side. I don't understand where this piece of wood came from or how it got there. My guess is from a yellow wooden caution sign that the car will hit later. As Powers almost gets away, wait, hold on a second. What is that concerned citizen doing back there? Out of nowhere, another car forces Mr. Powers up the side of a truck ramp. Who is the unlikely hero? It's the student driver from the beginning of the show. But it seems during the crash, Yo-Yo was thrown from his car and is lying motionless on the road. Could Yo-Yo be dead? Killed in the very first episode? Of course not. To help Yo-Yo get air, Holmes unties Yo-Yo's tie. Not knowing that this is how you access Yo-Yo's control center. The door on his chest plate flies open, revealing to Holmes that Yo-Yo is an android. And how does the shocked Holmes react to finding out his new partner and friend is a machine? This is how.
You're not a person.
And then we get one of the most corniest dialogues from TV.
And we're both programmed, Alex. Each in our own way. Well, I'm sorry I malfunctioned. But I thought it was human to fail.
Holmes quickly discovers that Yo-Yo is bleeding. Wait, no, he's leaking. Leaking oil. He looks up for help and sees a car repair shop just across the street. He runs over quickly to tell Jay Leno that he needs 2 cans of oil, the best brand he has. Seeing this brings a tear to Yo-Yo's eye. His new partner is more than just a partner, he's a new friend. Back at the office, the two finish up their reports. Holmes hard at work typing out his report as Yo-Yo sits back with his typewriter plugged into the outlet on his chest as the report types itself. Holmes unplugs the typewriter and explains that he will keep Yo-Yo's secret, and the two head off to have a nice cold soda from the nearby vending machine. That is until it takes Holmes' quarter. But don't worry, Yo-Yo is there to plug the vending machine into his outlet, releasing not only cans and cans and cans of off-brand soda, but also weeks worth of coins, like a loose slot machine in Las Vegas. The two and the laugh track machine share a laugh as the show fades to the closing credits. There you learn the main villain, Mr. Powers, was played by character actor Alan Miller. However, this credit on Holmes and Yo-Yo is mysteriously left off of his IMDb page. What are you trying to hide, Mr. Miller? Are you ashamed of your work on Holmes and Yo-Yo's? This show was considered one of the worst television shows ever. But is it really that bad? Yes and no. I've seen a lot worse, that's for sure. First off, rewatching this show, I think the first 10 minutes or so did work. Sure, it was stupid and corny in that 70s TV way, but that's not always a bad thing. The jokes might not have worked in today's television market, but for 1976, I can kind of see how it worked. At least some of the jokes at the beginning. However, after the first 10 minutes, it really starts to fall off the rails, and they use the same joke over and over again, where it just takes away from the humor. But this is a pilot episode, and it's hard to judge a TV show on a pilot episode. Because let's face it, most first episodes not that really good. The writers, the actors are still trying to learn the characters. So this show might could have grown into something given more than just one season. Starting to watch this episode after reading about how bad it was, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. Again, I've seen a lot worse television shows that gets a lot more than one season. So it's not the worst thing on television by far. I think if they aimed it for a much younger market, and I mean a much younger market, like preteens, that it might would have succeeded. If this came on the afternoons on a Saturday, I think I would have watched it at least until I was about 11 or 12. I liked the concept and it was new at the time. Well, this has been That Junkman with a classic TV review. I hope you enjoy this, so we'll do more. Thank you very much. We'll be back very soon.
Once upon a time, a Junkman had a dream.
Somewhere in space, this may all be happening right now.
In the wake of Star Wars, all 3 TV networks wanted a sci-fi show, knowing kids couldn't get enough of space-themed adventures. In the wake of Star Wars, you got Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, Jason the Starkman, Future Cop, Quark, and many others. The truth is a lot of these shows were greenlit before Star Wars, but Star Wars just pushed TV networks to do more science fiction. After a man landed on the moon in the summer of 1969, science fiction was born, at least to the kids of the 70s. Space 1999, Logan's Run, The Star Lost, Art 2, and so many others would grace TV network, either on Saturday mornings or in prime time. Cowboys were out and spacemen were in.
3PO, human-cyborg relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Hello. Sheriff, I have something to say.
Also out, The Andy Griffin Show. The sitcom of Mayberry Sheriff Andy Taylor and his sidekick deputy Barney Fife started in 1960, but was retooled after 1968 when its star Andy Griffin wanted to move on. The show was still #1 in the ratings at the time, so it was renamed with a new lead, Ken Berry, into Mayberry RFD. The new show had lost its humor. In fact, the Andy Griffin Show had already lost most of its humor when it had jumped to color in 1965. The show was just never good once they added color. And also it didn't help that same year it lost Don Knotts as the bumbling Barney Fife, and they got a whole new team of writers. After walking away from the show that made him a household name, Andy Griffin wanted another hit show, but one that was different, one that would show that he was more than just a country sheriff of Mayberry. Andy soon found getting another TV show hit wasn't all that easy. In 1970 he starred in Headmaster, and it would last 13 episodes. The following year, he would star in the new Andy Griffin Show. The name made it sound like this was a new season of his former sitcom, but it was a totally different show. This time, Andy would play a mayor of a small town, and it would only last 10 episodes. Finding it hard to break out of being the character Andy Taylor, Andy Griffin decided to start doing television movies and stretching his acting abilities, playing darker characters that he was known for. In 1979, Andy was approached to return to television, this time as a junk dealer. Feeling this was some Sanford & Son ripoff, Andy was happy to learn that the script was a science fiction action drama, and Andy would play the lead, Harry Broderick, the owner of Jetson's Scrap and Salvage Company. Harry had one simple plan. He wanted to build a spaceship, go to the moon, salvage all the junk that was left there by the Apollo missions, and bring it back and sell it.
I want to build a spaceship, go to the moon, salvage all the junk that's up there, bring it back, sell it.
Now that was a premise unlike anything on television. Andy liked the script called Salvage One, but turned it down, not wanting to do Saturday morning television. But he was quickly promised that the show would be on prime time and on the ABC network. Production started on a 2-hour TV movie pilot called Salvage. He was joined by co-star Joel Higgins, who many would come to know as the Silver Spoon's kid's dad a few years later. Joel would play former astronaut Anderson Carmichael, but everyone would just call him Skip. Also on the show was Trish Stewart as Madeline, who everyone would just call Mel. She was a NASA fuel expert. The somewhat villain of the show would be Richard Jacklin as Jack Klinger, an FBI agent tasked with keeping a very strict eye on Harry and his ragtag team. Although there was tension between Jack and the crew, they would come to his rescue like the time he was captured in Latin America by a dictator.
They built a rocket ship, and they went to the moon. Who knows what they'll do next?
The ship that would take them to the moon, Harry built from salvage from his junkyard, called the Vulture. The main body of the ship was the tank of a Texaco 18-wheeler truck, with a cement mixture as the capsule. After the pilot episode, the crew would use the rocket to find other junk to resell. They became stranded on a remote island off the coast of Africa and attacked by a giant ape. They discovered a Japanese soldier that believed it was still World War II. The crew would have to rescue a girl stuck in a bomb shelter, befriending an alien who crashed to Earth and took the form of Harry, giving Andy Griffin a chance to stretch his acting chops by playing two characters. In a 2-part episode, Skip faced death in the cold of space when the heater in his space capsule broke. Harry became friends with a robot who was a runaway from a secret army base and was programmed to kill anyone that got in his way. And to end season 1, the crew got captured by greedy locals in the South as they were trying to locate gold that was hidden by a Confederate army.
Where do you want to set her down, the junkyard?
No, not the junkyard. They'll be waiting for us there. Where? Right there.
Harry, that's out in the middle of nowhere.
Always good to have an ace up your sleeve.
Season 2 didn't slow down as it started with a 2-part episode when a rival salvage company attempted to tow in an iceberg, resulting in disaster. The crew then had to round up a herd of wild horses before local ranchers could slaughter them. Also in Season 2, Mel had to hire a surgeon to perform risky surgery on a horse using lasers. The season ended with just 6 episodes, with the last 4 never even being shown until the 90s. And in that final episode, Harry treated his crew to a trip to Hawaii and plans to mine a volcano of its diamonds. This all sounds so weird and crazy, you probably think I'm making it up. But this was just some of the plot lines from season 1 and 2. In season 1, the show didn't get great ratings, but it wasn't bad. It did have tough competition as it went up against WAKRP and Little House on the Prairie. But ABC believed in it, at least a little. For season 2, they moved it to Sunday nights. But after airing 2 episodes from season 2, ABC pulled the plug on the remaining 4 episodes. The New York Times called it an upscale white man's Sanford and Son without the humor. Not sure if that's good or bad. Toy company Estelle Rockets even planned to make a toy rocket from the show, but it was canceled as quickly as the show itself. Overall, it's not a bad show. It's not a great show by any stretch, but it's not bad. If you like corny science fiction television show, Salvage One is one that you need to check out. With only 20 one-hour episodes, it's an easy watch. But this was yet another crushing hope for Andy Griffith to have another hit television show. It's rare for an actor to have 1 hit television show. 2 is almost impossible. But Andy would do it 6 years later with his 2nd hit television show, Matlock, for 9 seasons. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at the forgotten television show, Salvage One. If you did, thumb up this video, and I'll make more in this series. And as always, if you hadn't, subscribe to the channel.
From the far reaches of outer space comes a threat to planet Earth. Mankind faces its most powerful enemy, the mastermind Rodak. The Space Giants.
There's a jet bomber carrying one. I want you to steal that plane.
Yes, Rodak.
Growing up, I was really unaware of Japanese TV shows. But around the age of 7, maybe 8, I find myself transformed into a world that I had real no understanding of. Thanks to a odd 305 time slot and a new network called TBS, I saw my first glance of a world not just outside of the southern U.S. The show I would learn years later was called Ambassador of Magna. But what I grew up on was a show that was dubbed over from its Japanese release and re-edited to a more American audience. What kids in Japan grew up on, I and many kids my age grew up on the same show but called Space Giant.
The Space Giants. Goldar, a 50-foot robot, and his electronic space family are created to defend our world.
This was my first TV show that I can remember as a kid that I fell in love with. It was a show for me. It wasn't something my parents watched or I was forced to watch along with them. It wasn't even something my brother was a fan of, so I became a fan of it also. This was my show, and thanks to the lead star of the show, a boy about my same age, it was a show that I felt was aimed for me. Over the years, I couldn't really recall much about this show. I didn't remember any of the storylines or any of the major episodes. But what stuck with me for years to come stayed with me from my childhood to my adulthood. The evil Rodak was, as a kid, one of the most terrifying things on afternoon television. Even if his mouth didn't move. Even as a kid, I could tell this was a guy in a suit. He was pure evil. And it didn't help much that he looked like one of the worst evil teachers of my school. Along with Rodak, to help him take over the world, were his ninja-like troopers called Lugu Men. These fighters for Rodak were turned into green slime when they died, leaving my young mind to wonder, were they people or just some kind of evil warrior created by Rodak? Rodak each week would unleash a monster on the city in hopes of taking it over, but thanks to a young boy hero named Miko, Rodak's plan never worked out. Miko was given a whistle by an old wizard who lived inside of a volcano. Blowing his whistle, he could summon the help of 3 transforming heroes. With just one blow, a young boy named Gam, who looked a lot like the hero of the show, would transform into a rocket and come to his aid. If he blew on the whistle 2 times, Gam's mother Silvar would transform into a rocket to come and help. And if times really got bad, the young boy would blow on the whistle 3 times to bring the father, Goldar, to help fight the evil scheme of Rodak.
I called Goldar, Gam.
Now, I think there were some toys from this show released in Japan, but as a kid, I didn't see any in the US, and what I wanted more than anything in the world during this time was one of those rocket whistles. Still to this day, I would love to have one. This show quickly went out of my life as quickly as it came into it. Either I stopped watching it, or it went off TBS not long after I fell in love with it. It seemed like I was only into this show for about a year. As I grew older, I almost forgot all about the show, other than the names and some small details. Throughout the 80s, I never saw anything about the show or even heard anyone talking about it. It wasn't until the late 90s, while out at a convention, I found an old VHS bootleg of the show. This homemade box, the cheap VHS tape, it was clear this was no official release and recorded off TV back when it aired on TBS. I slammed down $20 for a chance to take home a show that I loved as a child and I was ready to love again. Once back home, after popping in the VHS into my VCR, I sat back and I quickly learned, you can't go back to your childhood. This show wasn't the show I had built up in my mind. It was not the greatest battle for freedom on television I thought it was. It was bad effects. It had a hard to follow storyline. It was cheesy. It was cheap. I never got why kids in the 90s loved the Power Rangers. But once I saw Space Giants as an adult, I understand why kids growing up in the 90s loved the Power Rangers, as this show was kind of the Power Rangers of the 70s. Now I understand why kids like something that looks so cheesy and cheap, like the Power Rangers. Watching this show as an adult, I can't get into it the way I did as a kid. I can still love it for the memories it gave me. But now I can see the faults that I didn't see as a kid. But this show wasn't aimed for the adult me. It wasn't aimed for the young man closing in on 30. It was aimed for the 11-year-old boy who could overlook the dubbing audio, the cheesy effects, and the weak storyline. There's a charm and love for this show that most people couldn't understand if they didn't see it with their young eyes in the late 70s. Space Giants might not be the classic I remember, but it's a part of my childhood just as much as a Darth Vader action figure or a mixed up Rubik's Cube. Well, in the comments below, let me know, did you watch Space Giants? What did you think about it? And as always, please thumb up my video so I know you like my content and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.